Hello, everyone. Welcome to September. Can you believe it? We are on our way to the fall season. Very sadly for me, I love the summertime, but I thank you for joining me today in Restoring Mosaic. When I was in Lake Charles, in Louisiana this summer for a conference with the Ruth Institute, I met several people. It was a great conference, and Maria Keffler is one of them. She agreed at that time to come on an interview with me, and today that's who I'm interviewing. I know you're going to enjoy our conversation. Maria Keffler is a parent and public school teacher. She is the co-founder of Advocates for Protecting Children and the Arlington Parent Coalition in Arlington, Virginia. She writes, speaks, and advocates for children and parental rights. So that's a good thing to start with. Her book, and she has co-written a couple others, but her book, Desist, Detrans, and Detox, Getting Your Child Out of the Gender Cult, provides a roadmap, which we need in these days. It's a roadmap to help families navigate the dangerous terrain of gender ideology and bring children back to the reality of biology and life and the normalcy of life. Maria's work has been featured in the Washington Post, the Federalist, on Common Ground Media, and Choice Media. She lives in Arlington, Virginia, with her 3 teenagers, so you could pray for her, and her husband. So enjoy. Welcome, Maria, to the show today. So Maria, it's good to see you again. I didn't get much time, as I said, to talk with you at the conference, but I have read some of your work. Very, very thrilled to have you with me today, and to talk about kind of, I think, what got you into this in the first place, which I know you've told your story before, and what keeps you going. Teaching and loving children, by the sounds of it, is very much central to what you do. So this is advocacy, kind of fits with that, doesn't it?
It does. And thank you so much for inviting me to talk with you today. Yeah, the Ruth Institute was so busy. I didn't get a chance to really sit down with you. So I'm grateful for this time. So I'm a teacher. I'm just starting a new job, just starting this week at my daughter's high school. I teach English. But kids teaching has been important to me for a long time. I have 3 kids. They're 14, 17, and almost 19. And I pulled them all from public school here. I live in Virginia in the US. And a few years ago, I saw what was happening because a friend of mine called me. She'd been looking around our school website for some summer school information. This was in February. And she said, Maria, I came across this working group meeting for this transgender student policy. I don't know what this is, but it's tonight. I don't want to go alone. Will you go with me? So we went to this meeting, and it was horrifying, Anne. 12 or so people sitting around a table talking about what they wanted to see in this new transgender and gender nonconforming student policy. And I want to preface by saying, I often get called a hater. I get called a bigot. I'm told that I hate trans kids, yada, yada, yada. I don't hate any kids. I hope I don't hate anybody. I think everyone should be treated with dignity and respect, and everybody should be cared for and feel safe. And every child who's in school should feel safe and cared for and supported. But what I saw and heard in that meeting that night was not about safety. It was not about support and care. It was about hiding things from parents. That was the big takeaway from the evening, is that kids need to be protected from their parents if parents don't agree with their child's transition from one sex to another. And it was really shocking.
Well,
I don't believe people can change sex. I believe we are the sex we're born. And kids who are trans identified need to be cared for in a way that is reflective of reality, not that is cutting off their best support, usually, which is their parents.
well, and that's what I was going to say. It doesn't sound very kind or caring. to cut a child off from the parent who has given them birth, has nurtured them, the mom and the dad, and has been there for them. And now all of a sudden, the parent is cut off. And that's what I hear a lot, that there's a strategy. There is a strategy to minimize the influence of parents over their children, and then to not only minimize it, but actually separate parents and children, so that, like you said, the very support, the very love and care and support that they have and could help them with questions and confusion, because it's not the parents usually. Now, I better be careful what I say here. It's not the parents who usually are confusing the child, it's the school system. Now, on the other hand, there are some parents who have really bought into what the school is teaching and the media celebrates. And so they are very much part and parcel of what's going on with their child. But I think by and large, for most parents, this comes as a tremendous shock when they do find out. And from my experience, by that time, the child is often suicidal, because they have been separated, not because of their gender dysphoria so much. I mean, of course, confusion is there, but the separation and the grief of not being able to share with their parents of what's going on in their innermost sense, right?
Absolutely. And I really see this as a cult because it has so many cultic aspects to it. The way this narrative is being pushed that, oh, you can be born in the wrong body. And anybody who doesn't agree with that is hateful and bigoted and awful. And you need to cut those people off. And we've got this truth that, if you don't buy into it, there's something wrong with you. All those things are very cultic. And the cutting off of family is one of the hallmarks of cults, because you draw the recruit in and you cut off anybody who might want to pull them out, who might be reflecting reality to them. This was, I'm so sorry. This was what really shocked me as a teacher, because for years and years and years, schools have been trying to get parents more involved. We know that one of the biggest predictors of academic success for children is involved parents, parents who are involved in the school, who are talking to the teacher, who are, encouraging their kids to be academically successful. And schools have been trying to get parents involved. And now all of a sudden, parents are the bad guys. All of a sudden, we don't want parents seeing what's happening. Any adult who tells a child to hide something from their parents is suspect. That is grooming behavior. That is unethical behavior. In a very, very small set of circumstances, there are parents who are abusive. That is rare. And in most cases, social workers try to keep families intact. Counselors historically have tried to bring parents into the narrative. It's always been about protecting and nurturing the family and helping parents and kids to strengthen their relationship. But now all of a sudden, parents are the bad guys. And we need to really look at that and ask what's going on.
Exactly. And I like it that like it and don't like it, that you use the word grooming. I've just completed a manuscript, my third book, and it's called Damaged by the Predators Among Us. At least that's the working title. And I'm talking about those very things because we are looking at this trajectory that very few are connecting, which is grooming the children from kindergarten up and earlier, if parents will allow it, taking their children to drag queen shows at the library. Like, why would you think a child needs to see that? And the bigger question is, why are these drag queens wanting to perform in front of little children. There's something very suspect there, and it is grooming. And so for me, this trajectory with all of the sexualization ends with these children just being very open to any kind of sexual experimentation. And that includes pedophilia. They're going to be extremely vulnerable. You separate the child from their parents, you develop a relationship with the child, and pretty soon that child is in this web. So you have this cult that is just absolutely expanding, and it's horrifying. It's horrifying, and most parents are just totally oblivious. They don't know what's going on, although there are bright lights coming forth. People are beginning to say, wait a minute, something's wrong here. And I think teachers like you are so central to waking up the parents. In Ontario, I live in Ontario, Canada, and here the education system is very committed. To say committed, it's overcommitted to promoting the transgender ideology and to promoting outright lies, because like you said, you cannot change your biological sex. You can change the way you think about things and how you feel, as therapists, and we used to talk about the whole issue of, change your thoughts and then change your feelings, and how do you do that, and helping people do that. Now we can't even do that. We can't help individuals. We can't help children because of the laws that have been mandated. And we are now subject to criminal penalties in Canada. And I think it's very much like that in different places in the US. So the real conversion, because that was all under the guise of conversion therapy, but the real conversion that's happening is in our classroom. We're trying to convert the minds of children to an ideology that is just chock full of lies and confusing them so much that their minds are just going all the time. It's traumatizing to them, traumatizing to a young child to be told that they may not be a girl. You might not be a girl. You might be a boy. Talk about confusion. It's really affecting the children educationally, I would think, right?
Definitely. And what I think is especially nefarious with young children is it forces the child to decide, do I believe mom and dad who told me that boys have a penis and girls have a vagina? Or do I believe my teacher who said, oh, that's silly. Girls can have penises and boys can have vaginas. It's forcing that very young child to make a loyalty decision. That should never happen at any age in school. The parents should always be respected, but especially with young children, it is forcing them to decide who they believe.
We talk about grooming and what's going on in the schools. What do you attribute the lack of concern or the lack of speaking out from the teachers? Like, these are the frontline warriors in this whole area, I think. They're the ones who actually are on the ground. They're the ones who see what's going on. They're the ones even that are teaching this kind of stuff to our children, not, arithmetic and literature and science. It's all about gender and sexuality.
Well, I think we have to keep in mind there are deceivers and there are the deceived. And from what I understand, a lot of young teachers who are coming out of ed programs now have been fed this stuff. I didn't appreciate how widespread this is in academia. And so these young teachers are coming out of education programs and they're bringing this into the schools. I don't know about in Canada, but at least around here, I'm hearing more and more about teacher shortages. And I've talked to teachers who are taking early retirement. who spoke to one teacher who was close to retiring, and he was quitting and giving up his retirement because he said, I can't teach like this. He said, I can't even not promote it. They're forcing teachers to promote this. You can't even sort of remain neutral and just tacitly, ignore it. And so teachers are leaving the profession. I just interviewed and got a job at a private school. And from what I understand, there are lots and lots and lots of teachers applying at private schools because they're trying to get out of the public schools. So I think the ethical teachers, the reality-based teachers, they're scared to speak up because they've got families to feed. They've got careers that they need to protect. And when you speak up against this, you are attacked. You're a target. You're called all kinds of names. They try to cancel you. My book has had there's a trans rights activist who has made a series of videos, and in one of them, he's attacking me and my book. And this is just par for the course. And people know that. There's a lot of money in this. This is a $1 billion plus industry. If you look up sex reassignment surgery, that alone, I've seen market report after market report that calls this a $1.5 billion industry by 2026. So when you want to know what happened, follow the money. The money doesn't lie.
Exactly. And when you talk about academia, absolutely, academia has been corrupted right from, well, it's been for years, but in Closing the Floodgates, I talk about that whole issue that started back with Kinsey and his fraudulent research that was promoted as the be-all and end-all, and from which we get the continuum. His belief was, this was his belief, and so based on his belief, we have this whole education system that starts with this continuum that we are born bisexual. There is no evidence for this. There is nothing. We are born male and female. The sexual part develops in puberty, but the reasoning behind what's happening in our society is far deeper than what Kinsey talks about. It's not his theory is just so entrenched in academia that, and that's from like 1950. So now look where we are. And, when you talk about corruption in academia, then you have a huge issue that's happening within academia the last 30 years with academic professors who promote pedophilia, right? So we have those who promote alternate lifestyles, those who promote now the ideology of gender and change, that you can be a boy or girl, whatever you want, and then those who are promoting pedophilia, and it's all under the umbrella of academia. And so when we send our children to university, guess what they're getting? They're getting a steady diet of these things, and so that it is all acceptable, because according to these academics, the pedophilia is going the way of gay, the born that way mantra, right? So we have the gay and lesbian born that way. We have transgender who are now saying, well, we were born that way. And now we have coming up pedophiles who are saying we were born that way. Born that way actually has been refuted by academics right across the board, and some within the APA, high up within the APA itself, said, no, that's not true. But even though it's not true, you won't hear the media or politicians talk about it not being true. And the APA is not retracting their lies for the last 50 years. So people just keep believing the lies.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
It is. And I just saw a Planned Parenthood, what do I call it? Something that Planned Parenthood said that breastfeeding is a baby's first sexual experience. Is that not horrific and nauseating? Anyone who's breastfed a child knows it is not a sexual experience for mother or baby. It is a nourishing experience. But yes, this is part of the narrative that babies are sexual from birth. I believe that's in the Comprehensive Sex Education Guide from SIECUS.
And that's Kinsey, right from, that's his words from 1949, that children are sexual beings from birth. And so we are reaping what's been sown. That's horrific. And here we are as moms, right? And the fact that they would equate breastfeeding with babies being sexually stimulated, it is the most comforting thing for an infant. It's nourishing their body, but it's comfort for them because they are close to mom, just like in the womb. And it just is very, very sad that we've sexualized everything in our culture. Normal life is just so sexualized. Friendships, all the friendships, it's sexualized. Can't have a girlfriend. Oh, this is interesting. My 10-year-old granddaughter was here a couple weekends ago, and my girlfriend called. And she said, "Who are you talking to?" And I said, "Oh, my girlfriend." And she looked at me. She said, "Grandma." And I said, "What? A girlfriend?" And I said, "She is my best friend. And she's a girlfriend." And she was like, "Oh, you can't really say that." Isn't that sad? Isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I remember saying that, or my mom asking, "Oh, is your girlfriend coming over to play?" And that was just an innocuous word, but now it's so loaded. And I really think, in one sense, that hypersexualization of everything is driving some of the rapid onset gender dysphoria, because, as you said, kids do not have sexual natures. Your sexuality wakes up with puberty, and it's supposed to be a slowly developing thing that wakes up with puberty. Well, you've got all these kids who are being told at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old that they should have girlfriends and boyfriends. And they listen to the music on the radio, 92% of which has sexual messages to it. You watch movies. Every movie, the man and woman fall into bed on their first date or before. And all these kids are being told, if you're not sexual, something's wrong with you. Well, then the trans narrative comes along and says, "Oh, the problem is probably that you're trans if you're not feeling sexual feelings." It's just so horrific and so insidious.
And that's a good word, insidious. And so these innocent, vulnerable children are not only being confused, but manipulated and then coerced into behaving certain ways. And you're absolutely right about the fact that they can't just be normal kids. I mean, how horrific would it be if two little 7-year-olds skipped and played and walked down the sidewalk holding hands? You just can't, you don't see it because it's so sexualized, and it's such a heartbreak. For me as a grandma, it's just so heartbreaking. And I think it's going to be very difficult to return to what we used to think was normal. I think you're absolutely right that for children who are going, "I don't want to do that," and they're being approached on the schoolyards. I mean, there's so much happening as far as sexual assault right on the schoolyards now, because children are being taught to masturbate. Children are being taught how to do these things, and it's so wrong. We are, and not only that, we are paying tax dollars to teach our children these things that are actually harming their lives. And if they go through with transitioning, that will actually, it'll surgically, medically, psychologically damage them for life.
Yeah.
And we are paying for teachers to teach this. There's something wrong with this picture, isn't there?
There is. And my organization, Advocates Protecting Children, we've tried to be very cautious about saying, "Get your kids out of public school because we recognize that's a real hardship for a lot of people. A lot of people can't do it, but we've kind of changed our minds and we're just saying public school is not a safe place. It's not only not safe, public schools are teaching, as you said, they're teaching this stuff. They are grooming children. They are pushing children towards sterilization and sexualization and real physical and psychological damage. And it's not neutral. It's absolutely nefarious. In the United States, the National Education Association, which is the largest teachers union, they're all over this. This is one of their agenda items. And they put out books every year with these messages in them. So get your kids out. I mean, it's worth if you have to reduce your circumstances in order to save your child. I think it's that desperate.
And you and I both, I have hesitated in the past being that firm of getting your children out. You know, I think I've thought maybe it's a good idea and said to parents if they can do it, but but over this summer, actually, at a couple places I spoke, I just said, the public school system is no place for your child. If you think your child can stand firm in the face of such opposition and bullying, and stand up to these other children and teachers, then you're not thinking straight, because as an adult, are you prepared to stand up and speak out? Not very many are. So why would we expect our children? And we need, I totally agree, Maria, that it is time. In fact, what I would like to see, and it will not bring brownie points to me from some people, but I would like to see the public education system totally, it would probably have to be torn down and rebuilt in order to have any semblance of normalcy.
I think you're right. And I think it's headed that way because people are hemorrhaging out of the public schools. We've been homeschooling for several years. My youngest is going into 9th grade. And the last 2 years with COVID and a variety of other things, it's sort of been a perfect storm. She's had a really rough couple of years. And she asked me about 6 months ago, can I please go back to public school? And I said, I can't send you back to public school. I said, because you're going to be asked for your pronouns constantly. And if you don't give them, you're going to get pressured and asked what's wrong with you. I said, you're going to be taught this stuff. When a child comes to school, one of your peers and says, oh, I'm not Barbara anymore. I'm Robert now. You're going to have to say, that's wonderful. That's so great. And when she says, and I'm on testosterone, you're going to have to say, that's wonderful, fantastic. Because if you don't, you're going to be targeted. You're going to be targeted for re-education, because I see this happening to kids and I hear about this. They're invited to the GSA club. They're pressured by teachers. They're pressured by their peers. And I told my daughter, you either have to accept the narrative, lie about it, or be an activist. And if you're an activist, you're going to be pushing back every single day in every single class with every single person. There's no way to be neutral. And she said, well, I don't want to be an activist. And I said, and I don't want you to lie. So we're going to a Christian public school, or I'm sorry, Christian private school. And believe me, when I was interviewing them for her to go there, I was asking a lot of questions about what is your policy and how do you handle this? And I feel very good about their take on it, but there's not many schools that are handling this appropriately.
And that's something, perhaps, Maria, we could talk about that whole issue, Christian schools and what's happening even within the Christian schools another time, because in Canada, there's some serious things happening here with the infiltration as well. But we've kind of run out of time. Any final thoughts that you have for this session? And then maybe we'll do another one in a couple months if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, I would. I'm going to cough again. Excuse me. I would very much like to come back and talk some more. I guess I would like to just leave your listeners with 3 things, which are the 3 vectors that I think are promoting this and what you need to get your children away from. And that's public school, social media, and smartphones.
Yes.
Those are the three things. That is where this is coming from. And I hear from parents all the time who say, oh, I can't take my child's smartphone away. Well, why not? You're paying for it. If that child's under 18 and you're providing it, yes, you can. You can turn it off. They don't need it. I was 30 years old before I had a phone, and I know that was a different world, but we can get along without it. Those are the places that this is being driven and where we need to cut it off from getting to our kids.
This is really good because the next time we get together, so we'll talk about Christian schools, but I think also we need to give parents the permission to be parents again,
Mhm.
right? That's
Absolutely.
exactly what we need to take back, the whole sense of parenting and not allowing our children to just dictate everything their way. Anyways, well, Maria, I so thank you for today. And thank you for advocating for children. God bless you. I know now with your new job and you're going to be very, very busy, but I just pray that the advocating continues, and may God protect you and give you peace in all of these things, because it's not an easy road.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anne. And thank you for having me today.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.